So my October carnivore challenge has started. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. So I've started a new challenge. I've done different challenges, usually months apart from other challenges on this channel for the last couple of years, as I've been monitoring my weight loss as well as my health benefits I've had doing a carnivore diet, a strict carnivore diet. And when I say strict, I mean not a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet for almost 3 years. So this is a pretty interesting thing because I've been at a weight plateau. I found out earlier this year, back in January, that my high fasting insulin has been an issue. I didn't realize I had high fasting insulin because we never bothered to look at it because my blood sugar has always been great. Whenever I do a carnivore diet, my blood sugar is good. Now, I played around with carnivore on and off. I honestly had a rough time being consistent with it for a few years before I started my consistent carnivore routine. And so before that, I was doing zero low carb, extremely low carb, virtually non-existent since 2013 and 14. I was doing that on and off. So my weight yo-yoed while I wasn't being consistent doing this. And since I've been carnivore, my weight hasn't usually yo-yoed. It yo-yoed once. It went up once. It actually has gone up twice every time I did a high-fat carnivore diet. But it always came down extremely fast afterwards. And I ended up about 10 pounds less than when I started that extremely high-fat version of carnivore. So you got to keep in mind, carnivore works different for different people. And it's not always the quality of food they're eating. It's not always how strict they've been, even though I've been extremely strict. Some people can get great results doing 95% strictness. Good enough for them anyway, whether it's weight loss or managing arthritis in the body, whatever it is that works for them. That's their reason for doing this. I'm doing this mainly for health. The side effect is the weight loss. So sometimes part of the problem is they're tied into each other. And my weight loss isn't going to work that well if I have high fasting insulin. So if I still have high fasting insulin almost 2 years into a carnivore diet, and I know I'm almost 3 years in, but I noticed it 2 years into my carnivore diet, it shows my body still has some damage. My pancreas isn't working that well, and probably my liver as well. Probably have a really fatty liver after being overweight for a lot of years. People who typically have this problem are people who have hormone imbalances, which I have hypothyroidism. And keep in mind, I've also been going off my thyroid medication in the last 6 months since I've been doing this high-fat version of carnivore and different versions of carnivore that I've been trying this year to try and troubleshoot, to try and biohack as far as my weight loss is concerned. Now, one thing I've been trying to make a focus of is actually easing off in the gym because I think I still have adrenal gland issues. That stress is an inflammatory response in the body, and that could be part of the reason why my fasting insulin was so high. So I've been doing exercises more like walking. But as far as my October challenge goes, it's relying less on weight training, more on just activity, walking, and some body weight movements and exercises just to increase range of motion and flexibility, and also a bit of like a calisthenics in there, but not too much. I've been trying different types of carnivore and exercise routines to try and tailor it to my body's imbalance. My body has a hormone imbalance, and that's well established. That's not like me guessing. We know that's the fact. So at that point, I'm a bit of a more special case. And some of these situations can be a little more complicated for some of us than others. So even though I've been doing strict carnivore, I really enjoy carnivore. It's easy. I feel great doing it. But I find I do better and I feel better when I'm fasting. For a long time, I couldn't fast because it actually aggravated my gout. Now that my gout doesn't seem to be much of an issue and I'm not dealing with kidney stones anymore because my kidney stones were from uric acid buildup in the body, I find I seem to be doing okay with that. And I'm trying different ways to now manage my high fasting insulin. One of the ways, of course, is to just try and have a day, every second day, without any food intake, to let that fasting insulin drop. Because my fasting insulin doesn't drop like normal people's fasting insulin drops. Most people, they eat and their insulin and sugar goes up, and then the insulin brings the sugar down and the insulin goes down with it. But with me, that happens and my fasting insulin just stays up there. It hovers up there and it moves down like a jet plane landing it really slowly. And so giving myself an extra day is going to give my fasting insulin time to relax. Now, it might only make a small response after a month. It might make a substantial response after a month. But eventually, the goal is, of course, is to go back to eating every day and go back to eating as my metabolism improves. Everything will get better and I'll be able to go back to maybe more protein or maybe more fat in my diet. Either one of those tends to still be an issue with me. Even when I did a high fat version of carnivore and I was getting 90% of my calories from fat, I put on a lot of weight during that little window of time when I was doing that experiment. Now, I lost it just as fast as I put it on. But you got to keep in mind, it doesn't just come down to calories. If your hormones are out, there's two things at play when it comes to your metabolism, at least. calories as well as the quality of calories. So on a carnivore diet, we're working with quality calories. And then there's also hormones. And the calories can usually have a positive effect on the hormones, but sometimes there's enough damage there that might just take a little bit of extra legwork and a little bit of extra biohacking to try and figure out different ways to manage those. So alternate day water fast with snake juice. So the snake juice is part of this. It's about getting a teaspoon of potassium chloride and a teaspoon of salt in my water, about a liter of water once a day, and just trying to make sure I get that to keep my minerals up. I find when I do that, my sleep is better. And that's really the number one reason why I'm doing that. My energy is really leveled off. Fasting for me isn't usually that difficult, especially when I have a lot of red meat in my diet. It's just a more satiating food, and I find I can go a day without eating, especially if I'm just accustomed to it. So sometimes it takes a week or so to get accustomed to that. But you have to remember, if you're trying this version of carnivore that I'm doing, where I'm doing alternate day water fasts, along with eating whatever I want on the days I can eat, restricted to a carnivore diet, of course, what happens is if you're following along and you're having a difficult time sticking with carnivore to begin with, I don't recommend you do this, because what that's going to do is you're going to create windows of time for a whole day, a day plus, because it's a day plus the meal you didn't eat. So really it's almost a day and a half of fasting when you include the night before and the night after where you were sleeping. What happens is you're going to put yourself at higher risk to cheat. If you've already been struggling with staying on a carnivore diet, then I don't recommend doing that unless you make the rule that you're going to cheat with a carnivore diet. If you do cheat, your cheat is a carnivore diet. So maybe you don't get as long a fast in there every second day, but at least you're having carnivore foods when you go back to food. Make that your rule. But I really recommend just sticking with day-to-day carnivore if you're trying this and you've been having difficulty doing a carnivore diet and being consistent with it, or if you're just trying to up your carnivore game and be more consistent and strict with it. So it's important that you find what works best for you. I've tailored this routine to what I need for my body. A month or two of this is going to show if I've had good or bad results. Now I typically go for full body scans to measure my lean mass and my body fat percentage. So I know when I'm doing this, if my weight plateaus, if it's a plateau in a good way, say I've put on lean mass and lost just fat, or if I've lost a lot of fat and lean mass as well. That's ideally what we don't want, but that might be just what my body needs in the window of time, because I can always go back to my weight training whenever I want. I enjoy weight training. But right now, I think it's important that I don't stress my adrenal glands out too much. So I've tailored my routine, my activity, to walking and some body weight exercises. Some of you people out there might not have that issue, and you might be able to just do a weight training routine and do that along with this alternate day fasting. That might work great for you. So I've tailored this routine to my needs. You might look at this routine that I'm doing with alternate day fasting, water fasting, along with the snake juice, as well as my activity, and you might want to tweak one of those things. Maybe you'll do it without the snake juice. Maybe you'll do it with weight training instead of body weight workouts and routines for flexibility and increasing range of motion. You got to do what works best for you. So I want you to keep that in mind in case you're thinking of following along with this challenge. Take what works for you. But the one thing I think that is non-negotiable is being strict with carnivore. Not a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet. I know you can do it. If you can, leave a comment below and talk about what you've been doing that seems to be working for you, or what has worked for you in the past to biohack your carnivore lifestyle and make it work better for you as you tailor it to yourself. You'll find lots of times when people have to do experiments like this, it works for a window of time, and then it gets to the point where they can start going back to having a healthier metabolism and being able to eat whatever they want, when they want, restricted to a carnivore diet. And they have more metabolic flexibility. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Take care.